I told you I'd be back, and I am. I always come back. This time I'm back to read off the other 35 games that I have on my list that I finished last year, I rolled credits on, and we will see what you think. I have notes here for each of them. This is just going to be a repeat of the last video that I did. We'll just get right into it here. Hopefully you've seen that. If not, part 1 is going to be listed down below. This is one of my most played games to date. I think I might have a problem. There's just something that's so addicting. I know I'm not the only person who thinks this because these games have like popped off. I don't know what you would call them, like dad games. I think Yahtzee Croshaw calls them something like that. Things like American Truck Simulator or like Powerwash Simulator, Crime Scene Cleaner. Games like that I think have exploded in the last couple years. I know I'm not the only person who's really into that kind of gameplay. As evidenced by the fact that all these types of games have popped off recently. But there is just something so appealing about just going through and cleaning off every last detail of whatever it is. Whether it's a big boot or a roller coaster or a van or like Spongebob's house in the DLC. Which, speaking of that DLC, like I'm pulling up this DLC now. I remember liking some of these. The Wallace and Gromit one was really good. The Shrek one was fun. And they had a good amount of free ones as well. They have a cruise ship, the Sun Deck, that one was good. But there were also ones that were just awful that really didn't fit at all. The Back to the Future one was really disappointing. The Warhammer one, I remember people said was really bad. I don't play Warhammer, so I didn't even bother, but I'm worried that they're gonna fall into the same kind of trap, and I don't want them to do that. I like Powerwash Simulator. I like the gameplay loop. I don't want to get into the habit of paying money for a game and then continually buying the rest of the game via DLC packs. The way that like Cities Skylines does, I'm really worried that Powerwash Sim is like a Cities Skylines business model with the edges sanded down, and I don't like that business model. I know they do get a lot of backlash for that business model too, so there's a chance that they'll correct, but I highly doubt it. It seems like it's been pretty profitable for them so far. I mean, the gameplay loop is solid, so if you enjoy the base game, there's so much in the DLC to just add on to that, but it's not so much that I think every one of them is justified. But at the same time, they do offer a cheaper initial price for the game. I think it's like 15 or 20 bucks for the base game, and then, you know, maybe 5 to 10 bucks for every DLC, which I guess isn't bad. In the long run, I guess you're getting a full game, but it just does not feel great to pull out your wallet over and over and over again when a new DLC comes out. Number 37 is Antichamber. This game I really, really like. It is very strange. I think the first time I played it was around when it released, which was in 2013. I had never played a game quite like this before, where it was very like logic bendy. The geometry of the level changes as you're walking through it. Now a lot of this stuff is kind of trivial. It got used a lot in things like Layers of Fear as like horror tropes, but this is more of a puzzle game, an environmental exploration game. I do feel like there are way too many paths at any given time. Maybe that's just an illusion of the game though, and there's not as many paths as you feel like there are at any given time. Some of the puzzles I think are a little bit confusing without a guide, a couple of them, not all of them. I do recommend going into this as blind as possible because it is a very surprising game. It has a lot of stuff to throw at you that maybe you haven't seen before still, although a lot of it has been reincorporated in other games. I still think it's worth playing, but if you don't finish it, don't feel that bad. It's not that big of a deal, but it is worth experiencing. It's just one of those experiential games. This game and Talos Principle 2 are the only two games I've ever played that make conversations about philosophy interesting. I don't include Talos Principle 1 in there, and you'll see why in a bit, we'll get to it. This was originally a Skyrim mod where you fall into like an old Dwemer city, or a dwarven city, I think, that's built on top of a Dwemer city. Honestly, that is amazing. You can kind of tell there are a couple moments that carry over from what I presume is the original Skyrim mod. There's like a slight combat section that really feels super out of place when the rest of the game is all conversations. There is better writing in this game than probably almost any game that you could play. I think that the writing is really the strong suit. Here, it really carries the whole game. Everything is super believable. All the characters are really unique and interesting. They all feel like they are deeper than the conversations that you're allowed to have. They feel like they have their own lives. They have like schedules. They go around and walk around the city. I was really surprised at how much of what I did was taken into account. It felt like even things that I thought were relatively menial, like just a line in a conversation, would become the basis for like the beginning of my next time loop. I would be able to do a full quest line a lot easier because I was able to have specific conversations. You do kind of feel like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. It's basically Groundhog Day, the video game. There's a whole storyline that's really interesting and cool, and it went places I was not expecting it to go. So I do definitely recommend Forgotten City if you haven't played it before, although it is a very slow-paced game. I'm just going to warn you now. It is something that you really have to be in the mood to play. Sit down if you're in a story kind of mood, and if you want to be able to get super engrossed in a world and an environment and explore. I really, really think that you'll get a lot out of Forgotten City. I had a ton of fun with this for like a month, maybe. I had a great time in single player. I played multiplayer a little bit, but I'm not a very sweaty gamer. I mean, I am sweaty, but I'm not competitive. I'm not a big sweat when it comes to multiplayer stuff, so I only played it a little bit, enough to get kind of a feeling for it, a feel for the multiplayer. I think that it can feel really chaotic. Just the races in general in Mario Kart World, I think, can feel very chaotic. With 24 racers, there's constantly items going off. I feel like you can go from first to 20th within, 6 seconds. Everyone will pass you, and you'll get hit by like item after item after item after item. And it is so annoying. I absolutely hate that. But most of my time with it, like I said, was spent in the single player. I really enjoy just wandering around the open world. Even now, occasionally I'll boot it up just to drive around for a little bit and listen to the soundtrack, which, by the way, I think this has one of the best soundtracks of all time, the jukebox mode, as you're going around the open world. And there's just remixes of any song you could think of from the Mario universe, any of the games that have come out, even stuff that's relatively obscure. It's just done in such a nice way. I like that they take into account what time of day it is. I know at night they tend to play more mellow versions of tracks, and during the day they'll play more energetic stuff. The open world is just super charming and is fun to just like vibe out and drive around in. The environments are so well put together and they connect pretty seamlessly. There's tons of little nooks and crannies that you can dig yourself into or get on top of where you think you would not be allowed, but you absolutely are if you can just figure out a way to do it. And it is fun to like cheese it a little bit. I'm so glad that they finally updated it with a way to keep track of the Peach medals, the P blocks, as well as the question mark blocks that are on each, whatever they are, the panels that are on each of the tracks. I think that was one of the biggest things that made me put it down, was feeling like I was very lost in like, where have I been already? I feel like I've explored everywhere and I don't want to have to look up a guide. I like just exploring and only looking up a guide if I absolutely have to for like the very last thing, if I wanted to do 100%, which I didn't for Mario Kart World, just because there's nothing there. There's only so many stickers you can get before it kind of just feels like, oh, that's it. Controversial opinion, by the way, but I actually do like the routes between each track. It does kind of suck that you only get one full lap on a track if you're going, on multiplayer Grand Prix course to course. I understand if you play the game a lot, it probably does get annoying to see like all these different routes and whatever, but I really enjoyed the improvisation that comes with those routes. Even though they are relatively just a straight shot, it was fun to try to compete with other people. It felt like the Mario Kart World equivalent of doing like Final Destination no items, where you have like minimal distractions. Yeah, there's still items on the routes, which does get really annoying, especially when it feels like there are not that many places to drift. If there's a route that is basically a straightaway and you fall behind, there's not that much that you can do to get back ahead. Sometimes you can interact with the environment in ways that'll give you little boosts, but it's nothing major. Overall, I did like Mario Kart World. I thought it was a lot of fun, but it was not something that I could stick with for longer than like a month straight. But I did play it a lot during that month. I did a lot of the P-switches, I got a lot of the panels and Peach medals, and it was fun. I really enjoyed my time with it. This year, I did have a little bit of a retro wave. I went through and played some classic Nintendo games that I was not very familiar with. You'll see here in a bit, they're kind of scattered in here, but this was my first WarioWare game, if you can believe that. I've never played, what is it, Smooth Moves or Shake It or the new one for Switch. I can't remember what it's called. I hadn't played any of those before, so this was my first one, and it was a good experience overall. I did have a great time with it. You can beat it in like an hour. I think it took me like an hour or two to finish. Not very long at all. It was really cute. It reminded me a lot of the Rhythm Heaven games, which I guess isn't surprising, but it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. A lot more palatable. I was under the impression that it was going to be very like anxiety inducing or something, but it wasn't that bad. I'm sure that the newer games get a lot more difficult, but for a first try, they did a pretty good job. There's a good variety of mini games. I don't think there was anything that got too samey or repetitive. The music just absolutely slaps. It is surprisingly very catchy, a lot of it. And the characters are weird, silly little creatures. I don't even know. They feel like Saturday morning cartoon characters, which makes sense. It's strange though to have them expand out this like Wario universe as a completely separate thing. I've never played Wario Land, any of the Wario Land games, or Wario World on GameCube, so maybe I just need more Wario in my life, really. That's what I'm learning. I need more Wario in my life. Number 41 is What the Bat. Just like What the Golf and What the Car. It was very surprising as I was going through it. It was pretty short. Compared to the other two, I think it has quite a few less levels. Maybe it is meant to be more of a tech demo. I feel like so many of these VR games are just tech demos. I wish there were more fleshed out VR games out there. You can take a good idea, but your game is only like 4 hours long. It ends up feeling like a tech demo, especially if you don't do anything very interesting with it. If you keep to a relatively simple, like, what's VR good for? Standing, punching things, and shooting with a gun. That's what it's good for. It's good for hand-to-hand and gun and melee combat and like magic and stuff if you want to do that. But like, it's not great for a whole lot of other things. So I totally understand the idea of why so many VR games kind of fall into that same trap of feeling like a tech demo, but it is really unfortunate. This one was fine. It was fine. Number 42 is GORN. Speaking of VR games, it is a lot of fun. It is so easy to get sucked in. This is an artifact of this era of VR. I hate the snap turn, and I hate vignetting. I absolutely hate when games force vignette and they force snap turn. It's just a consequence of being an older VR title, but it sucks. It doesn't show up too much in modern games, so I can't really complain, but GORN is incredibly violent. It has a good sense of humor, but it's not too deep. They really had a lot of room to expand on it, and they do in the sequel. One of my only real issues with GORN, it's weird too, because the weapons are all floppy, like they really just flap around, but it is so entertaining and silly and really just charming. The whole thing is just charming. Okay, here's the retro section that I was talking about earlier. Number 43 is Super Mario Land. This one has like a 20-minute runtime. You can finish this game during like a lunch. You can sit down for lunch and finish this game by the time you're done. It is a solid Game Boy Mario experience, but if it was literally any longer, it would be terrible. And the bosses are a joke. Those are the only things I have to say about it. It's not a must-play by any means, but it's cute. And if you have Nintendo Switch Online, it's on there. So you can just play it there in an afternoon and say you did it. If you like Mario, there's so many other Mario games you could be playing that are good 2D Mario games too. But this one's charming and it's bite-sized. So if you haven't played one in a while and you just want to pick one up for a second and put it back down and not have to worry about Mario and not have it become like a thing in your life again, I think that one's a good option. Number 44 is Super Mario 3D World. This one is so long, if you plan on 100%ing it at least. I think it's long in general, but I went for completion, and it was so long. I literally put like weeks, I think like a week, maybe not weeks. I put probably a week straight into this game where this was the only game that I was playing in my free time. And even then, it took so long to get through it. This does have some of the best level design since Mario Galaxy, though. It might be number 2 for me. And if someone wanted to argue that it was number 1, I would not fight them about it. There's just so much variety. There's tons of ideas that don't outstay their welcome. It doesn't feel like you're doing the same thing over and over and over again for how many levels there are and how many little challenges there are. It doesn't really ever feel samey. And then they go back and they do remixes of the concepts that you learned in other levels, and it is still just as creative as the base level was, even more so. And Rosaline is the best character, and I will play her in literally any game where it's an option. Literally any game. Other than Smash Bros. I like Wii Fit Trainer. Number 45 is Dr. Mario 64. This one is surprisingly very addictive. I don't know if I like it better than the NES version, but they're basically the exact same game, so what are you gonna do? That's really all I have to say about it. It's Dr. Mario 64. What do you want me to say? You fucking move pills down and then you match up the pills, the colors. Number 46 is Ridge Racer 64. This one holds up so well. I cannot believe that I haven't played a Ridge Racer game before. And this being my first one, it feels like a hidden gem. It's like, does nobody know about this game? The soundtrack is incredible. I've been listening to it in my free time like all year. It has such a real sense of speed. It reminds me a lot of some of my favorite Need for Speed games in that way, where you really do feel like you're flying down the road at like Mach 10. It's really convincing for a N64 game. Overall, it is a really fun racing time. I do still recommend it. I think it holds up beautifully. If you like racing games, you need to play Ridge Racer 64. If you like breakcore, this game's got breakcore in spades, okay? Just do it. Just play it. Number 47 is Pokemon Puzzle League. Puzzle League is just fun anyway, even without Pokemon attached to it, but it's still fun to beat PNGs of all the trainers. High tier. But it's still fun to beat PNGs of all the trainers, even if it literally has nothing to do with anything, and it's literally just Puzzle League again. It is not hard to be kind of good at Puzzle League. It's a relatively simple puzzle game, but Pokemon Puzzle League was a nice little sit down. I beat it in an afternoon and just enjoyed my time with it. It's been a while since I played a game like that, something like Puyo Puyo or Tetris or Puzzle League. It is not hard to be kind of good at this kind of puzzle game. It's very similar to Puyo Puyo, where eventually you probably will lose, but it's fun in the meantime, and making all these little micro decisions and hoping that your CPU opponent is just worse than you are is a lot of fun. Number 48 is Donkey Kong Bananza. I really enjoyed Donkey Kong Bananza. This came out back in July, I think, of this year. So this is about halfway through the year. I was a little skeptical of this one going in, only because I love the original Donkey Kong Country, and I saw that Donkey Kong redesign, and I went, ugh, ugh. I just did not like it at all. And when I was like, oh, they made it the movie design from the Mario movie, I did not like it at all, but I came around to it. By the end of the game, I was fully on board with this new redesign of Donkey Kong. This music, I was also concerned about the music, because Donkey Kong Country music is some of the best game music ever. David Wise just has an incredible knack for finding that specific sound. This music is different. It still fits the vibe, and it has some classic tracks thrown in for flavor still, so it does still feel like it pays respect to the original games while being its own thing and differentiating itself, and like kind of setting a new path for this series, where they're taking this absolutely bizarre concept of like, let's make a 3D platform where you can destroy pretty much everything. This is obviously made by the same team that made Mario Odyssey. It's a lot of fun to compare the design philosophies. I've already seen tons of YouTube videos that do exactly that. They go through and talk about, you know, why were certain decisions made here versus being made here. The team is so obviously talented. Apparently, they just pump out the best 3D platformers you could possibly make. This one absolutely hooked me the entire time. It had a lot of fun little twists. I did get that 100% itch, but I'm not going for it. I'm not gonna be fooled. Also, fuck you for putting that DLC out. Yeah, I know, brave take, you're welcome. That DLC just looks so overpriced for what it is. It's like a mode that feels like it should have been added as a free update. It's just insane that they're charging it. But I'm not the first person to say that. I'm not gonna dwell on that too long. I thought Pauline was gonna be really annoying, but she is a wonderful and surprisingly cute companion for DK. She fits the game pretty well. I think that they did a good job making her endearing and setting up this little like relationship between her and DK, where it really is just kind of friends. I'm glad they didn't go for like a parental figure kind of thing, like a lot of games with little kids tend to do. Number 49 is the Talos principle. Do you like feeling stupid for 40 minutes and then figuring out something that makes the puzzle seem trivial, and then you feel smart as fuck? If so, you need to play this ASAP. This is probably the longest tutorial for another game that exists, other than maybe Hollow Knight is the only other thing I can think of that is a whole game's worth of tutorial for a completely other game. You don't really have to pay attention very much to the story until Talos Principle 2, and really they do a good job of going through and explaining literally everything that happened in Talos Principle 1, because I like skimmed most of the text in that. After a while, it just started to feel very repetitive, and so much of it felt like circular, or it explored stuff that I was not super interested in, because I just wanted to get to the puzzles, man. There's a reason that GLaDOS talks to you on the loudspeaker while you're doing the puzzle. She doesn't print out a fax machine and you have to read her entire thing, because nobody would care about GLaDOS then. And to be honest, they do a very good job in Talos Principle 2 of making that less annoying, because you have companions that are physically talking to you. But I will say it is worth dabbling into the audio logs when you come across them, because you can play them and walk around at the same time. But like I said, in Talos Principle 2, they really catch you up on everything that you may have missed, and they are sure that you are caught up at the beginning of that game. So don't worry about missing any of the story. Just play the Talos Principle, do the puzzles, and you'll have a good time. Number 50 is Sludge Life. I have this music stuck in my head, and now you have to listen to it. It's probably playing right now, actually, in the background of this segment. This game has great music, sound effects, and atmosphere. I think it really is just a great experience. You just sit down, let your eyes melt into sludge, no less, and just enjoy the world that it sets up for you. The characters and writing really do build out this environment that I think is just fun to be in. I'm so glad that there's a second one. The environment really is just fun to walk around in and talk to characters, see what they have to say, listen to their stupid jokes. It gives a real Scott Pilgrim vibe with the humor and some of the visual gags. I absolutely love the menu being in the PC, and then when you close it, the whole laptop gets chucked. Right at the beginning of the game, they hit you with that too, and it's just so... It's such an interesting way to just throw you into the world with no introduction, really. But this is one of those games that's very weird. I'm just going to warn you ahead of time. If you do give that one a try, just know that. Number 51 is Battlefield 1. It is the best World War I shooter by a lot. It's probably one of the best games of all time. I don't know what you want me to say. Look at this footage. Look at this footage. I don't know what I could possibly tell you. If this doesn't make you want to play it, it's Battlefield, but it's World War I. There's big fucking Zeppelins, okay? There's big Zeppelins, there's airplanes. What do you want me to say? There's horses, there's sabers, there's like Lawrence of Arabia type shit in here. If you need me to explain to you why you should be playing Battlefield 1 and why it's the best Battlefield game, then just try a different game on this list. Battlefield 1 is so, it's self-explanatory. It should absolutely speak for itself. The campaign was fun, but very, very basic. It was nice to be able to take breaks in between the stories, the separate stories in the anthology. Some of them were pretty short. I think one of them is only like 2 missions long, and the longest one I think is like 5 missions, but it's really just a tutorial for the multiplayer. That's what the campaign feels like, even though it does have some really pretty visuals and some great moments. But that really is all it is at the end of the day, is a tutorial. Number 52 is Strange Jigsaws. I don't want to spoil anything for this, but this is one of those games that you learn it by playing. Just jump in, try to figure it out, okay? This is either cheap or free. I cannot remember off the top of my head, but it only takes like 2 hours to beat. But this and this dev's first game, 20 Small Mazes, are both worth buying and playing. They just feel like classic Flash games. They just feel like somebody making a fun little creative puzzle type game that will subvert your expectations as you're playing over and over and over and over again. If you like games like that, please try Strange Jigsaws and 20 Small Mazes, which is a game I don't have on this list. I think I beat it last year, but it is still worth playing. Number 53 is This Seat Taken? This is a pretty small logic puzzle game with a very cute aesthetic. I like that everybody's a little shaped. It has some funny dialogue, but nothing really cringy. I was worried about that because it does seem like the sort of game that would have very cringe writing, but it thankfully rides the line of not really being cringy. It actually gets pretty hard toward the end. There were multiple levels where I was looking at my screen blank-faced for like 20 minutes trying to figure out how to arrange it so that the last person was able to sit down too. You can complete levels without them being perfect, but I don't know why you would ever do that except on accident. It doesn't really make sense as a feature, to be honest. But Is This Seat Taken is a good little puzzle game. I definitely think that if you like bite-sized puzzle games, it is a great, it would be a great Switch game. Number 54 is Sonic R. This one's a little unexpected, but I came across something that allows you to play it on a modern PC, widescreen. It's the Sonic R mod manager. You can absolutely just port the game to modern hardware. I think the original PC release is like 2004, so it is surprising that it is so playable on modern hardware. And it was not hard to get set up at all. I think it took like 5-10 minutes max to get running with a controller working and everything. It was way better than I was led to believe. People clown on Sonic R. People make fun of Sonic R, but it's actually good. I feel crazy. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. It has like 5 tracks. It can be beaten really, really quickly if you just sit down and do it. It's like a 10-minute, 20-minute game if you aren't the worst at it. Definitely turn up your speakers to max if you do, though, because the songs really make this game, I think. They set the vibe perfectly, and they make it so that even if you're running into walls the entire time and you're actually bad, it doesn't feel bad. You get to just listen to good music and jam along to it. But yeah, Sonic R, I don't know why everybody tends to hate it. I don't think it really controls badly at all. It did not take very long to get used to the way that it feels, and I think it's worth playing now. If you haven't tried Sonic R, or if like me, you only knew negative things about Sonic R and didn't ever hear anybody talk positively about it, I'm here to tell you that I tried it and it's pretty good. You should definitely play it. Everyone needs to play Sonic R, and everyone who has a bad opinion of Sonic R should play it. I feel like people have a bad opinion of it, but haven't even tried it. Number 55 is Sludge Life 2. Yeah, that's right. I did both of them. It's really just more Sludge Life 1. It adds a couple quality of life upgrades, but it keeps the humor of the original to a T. Like, it is borderline the same game with a little bit more and a little bit different, which is really what I wanted out of it. I loved seeing more of this world, but I really hope that if they do another game, that they branch out a lot more, or I think it'll be a really tough sell otherwise, because you can only do so much of this exact same thing. I did enjoy Sludge Life 2, but by the end of it, I was like, okay, I think I'm done with this world. Like or not with the world, but I was like, I think I'm done with this environment. It really does set up a broader world pretty well. So I'm excited, and I hope that they do follow through with that and kind of expand it out a little bit. Number 56 is Peak. This one somehow manages to be both fun in single player and in multiplayer. I just have a note here that says Bing Bong is my child. If you play this, you need to be using proximity chat. Don't use Discord. Every game with proximity chat benefits from proximity chat. I think I've said that in a video recently, but every game should have prox chat. It is so much more fun. It makes interacting with people in a game world just way funnier and more interesting. It allows for more natural comedy. My only issue with the game is that once I beat it, I had literally no desire to play anymore. I played it, and my brother and I beat it on our second run, and after we beat it, I was like, well, I'm ready to uninstall the game now. Like, I did not have an urge to keep coming back to it to play it on ascended difficulties. I know that there's a lot now. They've added more maps that might be worth going back to play, but the challenge part of it was the thing that drew me to it, and once I finished that, I was just done. Number 57 is Battlefield 3. Okay, look, I'm sorry, but Battlefield 3's campaign sucks. Yes, I know. I'm bringing on the wrath of Battlefield fans, okay? I like Battlefield. I enjoy Battlefield multiplayer. I enjoy Call of Duty's campaigns, for the most part. I enjoy some Call of Duty campaigns. Battlefield 3's campaign as a whole was what I didn't like. You will know when you've reached one of the best moments of this campaign because the Battlefield theme kicks in when it does. That's really what it is. That's true of pretty much all of the Battlefield campaigns. The jet mission in this one is a standout. I really enjoyed it a lot. Having to look around like you're actually in a jet and like keep an eye on enemy tails and track them as you're bobbing and weaving everywhere and barrel rolling all over the place was a lot of fun. It was a really unique mission for a first-person shooter. It was something that I hadn't expected at all. And look, okay, I'm gonna explain now why I don't like Battlefield 3's campaign, okay? I played Battlefield 1 first, as evidenced by this list. There is a character in that game called Blackburn. Okay, Blackburn is a name that comes up a lot throughout the series, and it has to do with a whole bunch of the Phantom program stuff. It's not that big of a deal, but there is a character named Blackburn in Battlefield 1's campaign. He is an unreliable narrator. That's the pilot section in Battlefield 1. The whole point of his character is that he is very much probably lying to you, the viewer, about what happened in his story. So I went into Battlefield 3 with the expectation that Blackburn was someone who could not be trusted, okay? That name, I was like, that's really weird and interesting. This game's campaign sets up the idea that Blackburn is lying. Conveniently, he's being interviewed in a room where we cannot independently verify anything that he's saying. He's constantly getting called out on bullshit by the two people who are interviewing him. They're constantly questioning him and implying that he's not telling the truth. You know, the other thing that really made me think about this, there's a scene in Mission Impossible Fallout, which is a really good movie, by the way, where they have someone confess because they have him wake up in a hospital after he's passed out, and he sees on TV that his manifesto's being read and his bombs went off, and so he starts to give them the code to disarm something or whatever. He gives them the code to his phone, and then all the walls of the hospital come down. The news reporter walks off the TV, and it turns out it was just Simon Pegg in a mask and a Wolf Blitzer mask. And they're like, ha, gotcha, bitch. I saw that scene in my head, and I saw the Blackburn name from Battlefield 1, and my brain was convinced that there was going to be a twist ending. And I was like, if there's a twist ending to this game and it turns out that Blackburn is actually like a double agent or he's lying to them this whole time, that would be awesome. That would totally make up for all the lackluster parts of this campaign. All the parts where it just felt very by the numbers and like missions would go too well. All of that thrown out the window. There's no twist. It's the most anticlimactic ending probably in any FPS that I've ever played. You just fist fight the villain and then that's it. You fist fight the villain and then you win. And it's not even really a fist fight. You just kind of watch a cutscene of you winning and then that's it. There's like no follow-up. There's like no closure for anything. It's just it was so anticlimactic. I don't understand why everybody loves the Battlefield 3 campaign, but I'm telling you right now, it is not as good as I thought it was going to be. The Battlefield 1 campaign isn't anything special, but I've heard people talk up the Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 campaigns. And while I was waiting for Battlefield 6 to come out, I figured I would play through the campaigns of 1, 3, and 4 in the lead up to it, just to kind of get a taste for what Battlefield has been pre-Battlefield 1, and then getting a wider context for where the series was going after that point, from Battlefield 6 potentially onward, or 2042 onward. And I was just so disappointed with Battlefield 3's campaign. I really was expecting it to be better than it was. Number 58 is Battlefield 4. I did not like Battlefield 4's campaign either. If I'm being honest, I didn't like Battlefield 4's campaign either. I thought it was very lackluster. Actually, it was worse than lackluster. It felt unfinished. It felt like half of the length that it should have been. There is no greater hate in my heart than I feel for Irish as a character. He consistently undermines your authority throughout the campaign, multiple times in front of your entire squad, even though multiple leadership position people in the game tell you, the silent protagonist, by the way, you're the squad leader, we follow your orders. By the way, I'm gonna do whatever I want. We follow your orders. They say that to you so much. It is such an ironic thing to say to a silent protagonist. But Irish consistently undermines your authority over and over and over and over again, often to the detriment of both the mission and the world. The setup here is like some Chinese general or something is doing a China. He's doing a China, and we're worried that he's gonna do a China in the US and the rest of the world. So we're trying to stop him from doing a China. Okay, that is the plot. I actually don't think you meet the villain at all. I think that he doesn't even show up on screen. By the way, that plot, it's the central conflict of the game. And they only explain it once, right at the beginning, and then you're meant to plant that brief exposition and like mission briefing dialogue that you're like barely comprehending because it's coming by so fast for the rest of the game. Hope you didn't forget anything important. That main villain, he shows up, I think, once on TV. Like, he's not a character at all. They don't even try to make him a character, but he is the impetus for what's happening. And we're meant to hate him because he's Chinese, I guess, and he destroyed stuff. But we never see him. We never see him. We never interact with him. He doesn't get the chance to shine at all as a villain. He's just there in the background doing stuff, which I guess is more realistic, but it's not a very exciting campaign when we're doing crazy shit and the guy that we're supposed to be fighting doesn't even have a screen presence. It is surprisingly short. It's like a 6-hour campaign. It does feel, like I said before, it feels like a slice of a larger game, or like the second game in a series that never got a third game or a first game. It just feels like you're dropped into the middle of this story, and there's just like a slice of this story that you get to experience, and then it's over. And I guess the story probably continues into the multiplayer. I'm not super familiar, but it's just so bad. The writing is so bad. This was the first one where I think I actively disliked the campaign. I almost hate played it after a certain point. I was like, it cannot get more stupid than this. I thought it was building up to something really nice, and then when it made me choose between one of the two, Hannah or Irish, first off, I sacrificed Irish so fucking fast. That guy was like a liability. He should have been gone. He should have been discharged way before any of this shit. I did not like that character at all. He was like charming, but he was a terrible subordinate. He did not listen to orders at all. I will say that dam scene was pretty badass though. There are some good set pieces in 3 and 4. It's true, but just overall, the campaign just feels so lackluster. To be honest, the closest thing I can think to compare it to is like Modern Warfare 3, but Modern Warfare 3 is better than Battlefield 4's campaign. Even though Modern Warfare 3 suffers a lot from a lot of problems, I still think that the campaign is better. The events make more sense. The characters are more fleshed out, and there's just more in the campaign. It just feels higher stakes than Battlefield 4. Battlefield 4 really just feels like you're barely in it before it's over. It felt like there was more that was cut out, which is a super bizarre feeling to have in a Battlefield game. It felt like I was missing something, like somebody forgot to put the last couple pages of dialogue into production. Something. There was like no follow-up at all to it. I mean, okay, to be fair, nobody plays Battlefield for the campaign. I've been told that. I've been told that multiple times. Nobody plays Battlefield for the campaign. But I like multiplayer game campaigns. Titanfall 2's campaign is like one of the best FPS campaigns ever. There are some really good Call of Duty campaigns. There's a lot of potential for a good FPS. Even a mediocre FPS is still fun. I still enjoyed the gameplay of Battlefield 3 and 4, but the story was awful for both. It just felt so run-of-the-mill and very mediocre. Like there was not a lot of time spent on it at all.
You hit like a child! Вы только через силу понимаете! Собаки! Hey, Sludge! Всегда ты резно!
Number 59 is Call of Duty Black Ops. This was the first time I've ever played the Black Ops campaign. Can you tell I was in an FPS mood while waiting for Battlefield 6 to come out? This game was almost a period piece, but aside from a couple times where it's story relevant, I feel like it could take place like at any time in the mid-20th century. I understand that Vietnam is an important set piece for it, and the Cold War is an important part of it. It didn't feel like it actually tied in as much as I wanted it to. I was hoping for some alt history or something thrown in there. It felt like a proof of concept more than anything. There were a couple fun missions, but overall, I thought it was a kind of frustrating experience. The difficulty felt way too high. Even though I was playing on hardened, like time to kill felt so quick on me. Like it felt like I died so fast. And hardened, there's hardened and then there's veteran. If you're unfamiliar with the difficulty levels, hardened is basically hard, and then veteran is like impossible. Veteran is like really, really difficult. And then you have like normal, whatever normal is, I can't even remember. But hardened is what I tend to play stuff on, is like the hard mode of a game. And this was incredibly frustrating. It got past the point of just being regular hard to the point of being frustrating. It felt like I was playing on veteran instead of on hardened. This did have some really cool secrets for the time. Kyle ended up telling me one time after I beat it, he was like, "Oh, did you press A and D while you were in the chair on the main menu?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, like move around on the main menu, like move your character around." you can knock yourself out of the chair and you just like wander around in that room. There's like a PC with a whole fucking bunch of secret stuff tied to it. It's not super intense, but it's pretty cool. It was something that I was not expecting at all in a Black Ops game. So it really caught me off guard.
Secure, moving to extract.
No, negative. Stand by for new tasking. Objective False Prophet has intel on a priority Nexus target. Escort him as PC to alternate location for prisoner exchange. More to follow.
Precious cargo, my ass.
Nexus target?
Number 60 is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Okay, look. This one retroactively redeemed Black Ops 1's story for me, okay? This is the Stardust Crusaders of the Black Ops series. It retroactively made Black Ops 1's story interesting in a way that I think Black Ops 1 on its own was not. Similarly to how Stardust Crusaders retroactively makes Phantom Blood more interesting, Phantom Blood on its own is kind of boring. Halfway through, it really slumps. It feels very much like one of those 70s, 80s anime that it is. By the time you get to Stardust Crusaders, it retroactively makes Part 1 more interesting because it contextualizes it into a wider world in a timeline. It makes Part 1 into an event rather than the story. And this really does a similar thing. There are some really good sequences in here. The nightclub scene is really good. The wingsuit scene is really, really fun. The Obama attack, it's just so cinematic in a way that I don't think Black Ops 1 quite nailed. It had some moments that were close, but I don't think anything quite as interesting or engaging as any of those set pieces that I just mentioned. I do think the game is almost ruined by those awful Strike Force missions. I absolutely hate Strike Force. It felt, you know what it felt like to me? It felt like the clan creator bullshit from Yakuza Kiwami 2 and 6. That's what it feels like. It feels like stupid RTS nonsense. I'm doing a fucking finger waggling a lot. Why am I wiggling my finger around so much? Especially after Black Ops 1, this game is almost trivially easy on hardened. I think I died like a handful of times in the whole series, or between all the missions combined. It has some really, really fun weapons and attachments that do feel like a breath of fresh air for the series while not feeling like they're pushing the envelope too far, which is something that I know Black Ops 3 really does. It is the like point of no return in terms of like pushing it too far into the sci-fi direction. But this game tends to have stuff that is still futuristic, but more toned down to the point where it's semi-realistic. It's believable in a way that I don't think that the later Black Ops games are. And this surprisingly has, like, choices matter, but it's done in a really cool way. Oftentimes, I didn't even know that I had made a choice or had an impact on something until, like, way later. The fact that there are 8 endings to this game. There are 8 different endings to this game. Like, that should speak for itself. I've seen people talk about how to get each specific ending, and there's no consensus about, like, it's these exact metrics that do this, it's these exact metrics that do that, or maybe there is now, but I don't know. And for the record, the Walking Dead Telltale series, Season 1 has 1 ending, or 2 endings, really. Season 2 has between 5 and 7 distinct outcomes. So, Black Ops 2 is like a Telltale game level of in-depth in terms of like random shit that somehow matters. But yeah, I did like Black Ops 2 a lot more than Black Ops 1. I don't know if I'll ever go to Black Ops 3 and beyond because I really don't have that much of a connection to the Black Ops series in the way that I do with the Modern Warfare trilogy, but maybe one day I'll give it a shot. Number 61 is Peglin. This one is a Peggle roguelike. I'm sure if you have been on the internet, you've seen footage of this game, maybe. This game is very, very cute, but it needs way more content, in my opinion. It is relatively easy. I think it has like 3 characters, but I didn't really want to play it past just the first character because there is not that much variety run to run, in my opinion. It does seem like it's getting some updates here and there that are adding some stuff, but I don't think that the core gameplay loop is quite interesting enough or engaging enough to justify adding a whole lot of stuff. Maybe it's fine right where it's at, and it's just a lot smaller scale game than I expected it to be going in. But if that's the case, then I think it's too long. The runs are a little bit too long, and they should be shorter. Sometimes my eyes just glaze over when I'm asked to choose some like arbitrary upgrade for one of the 3 balls that feel like feels like it doesn't do very much like one of the other games we'll get to.
One of our objectives is under attack. Our troops now control Echo Sector.
Number 62 is Battlefield 2042. This one is not as bad as everyone says. I played this one multiplayer, and by the way, I played it last year, not the year that it came out. I didn't play this game at release. I was excited for it. I liked the trailers a lot, but I did not play it at release because I saw the reception that it was getting. I saw how buggy it was. I saw how buggy it was. I saw how unfinished it was, and I just did not. I opted out of playing it at release. There are just a number of like small, weird decisions that I think really bring this game down. The maps are huge, like way bigger than they need to be. Or maybe a good way to put it is there's not enough in the maps for how big they are. The maps are huge, but there's a lot of nothing in between the points. So it feels like a lot of getting to a point and then dying and then respawning and trying to get to another point. The lock-on weapons are so useless without SOFLAM, which is true of, I think, all the Battlefield games. You need either SOFLAM, you need either SOFLAM or to just get skilled enough with a RPG that you can just knock out a helicopter or a vehicle without having to worry about locking on. I do think that the operators or specialists or whatever they are, that concept sucks, but I love the gun loadout system that lets you swap your attachments on the fly in game, where you can give yourself like up to 4 different sights, a couple of different muzzle brakes or silencers, or like muzzle attachments or clip attachments or whatever, and swap out on the fly. Because there were times when I would want to use one gun for different ranges of engagement, and so I would just swap out a couple of attachments and all of a sudden it was good to go for a new environment. I really liked that a lot. But overall, Battlefield 2042 was a miss. I think it's just a lot of little things, like I said, that pile up to make it just a disappointing overall experience. And there's no campaign in it, so it's completely worth skipping, especially now that 6 is out. I don't really see a reason to ever go back to 2042.
Moving.
On the street!
X-ray spotted.
Number 63 is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. A lot of people glaze this game. People love Modern Warfare 2019. In my opinion, it is way too short for me to get invested. I didn't think there were a lot of very good set pieces. The cinematic moments I don't think hit quite as hard as in the original series either. Price's face is hilarious. I know everyone's seen this look that he gives. It's some stupid shit. It is so funny. When he fucking made that face, I cackled. I could not believe it. The dark levels are amazing, by the way. The dark levels in this are really good. Everybody says that, obviously, because it's true, but they're the most interesting, unique, and fun thing that this game brings. I actually thought most of the levels were not that great. Most of the missions were not super interesting or engaging, but the dark missions were amazing. I loved sneaking around in night vision with a silenced pistol or a silenced machine gun and just taking out enemies one by one, going to different buildings and systematically sweeping the building. I thought it was a ton of fun. Everyone glazes that mission where you're going into the house and you go up the spiral staircase and you clear floor by floor. And that mission does deserve a lot of it, but I personally preferred the one that was a more wide open area where they just like dump you into a level and they're like, okay, clear out this and this and this, go for it. And then you do, and it's great. It's a ton of fun. Having like little guys patrolling around. I felt like I was playing Metal Gear Solid. I wish there were more moments like that. And I heard that they added some of that into the multiplayer too. They had like a night vision, nighttime maps. And I wonder why more games don't do that. I wish that like Battlefield 6 did that, for instance, because I think it would be so much fun to have a completely different environment. That's what makes those modes interesting. And it feels like Modern Warfare was like this close to being good. It has a lot there that I enjoyed, but it has a lot that I didn't as well. The one mission where you're a baby, Farah, I think is her name, when you're like a little girl version of her, it was a very cool mission. Most of the missions felt very like samey and they didn't feel too special or unique, but there were a couple in here that really did stand out, and I think that they are the reason that people remember this game so fondly. I mean, it looks beautiful too. The game is absolutely beautiful. I do think that revealing at the end of this that this is actually a reboot, I mean, we knew it was a reboot going in because it's Modern Warfare 2019, but I had a small amount of hope that this was going to be some kind of like continuation or some kind of like soft reboot. I ended up not really enjoying the like, oi, this is Gaz, he doesn't talk too much. I was like, no, I don't need that. I don't need you to mention soap like we're getting the gang back together. I don't like that. I don't want that. I have a note actually that says we'll see if they pull it off in the other 2 games. I don't know if I'm gonna play the other 2 games. I heard that it only goes downhill from here, and that this is like the peak of the reboot series. So if this is as good as it gets, I don't know if I'm actually gonna take the time to go through the other 2 games and disappoint myself even more. Number 64 was Hollow Knight. This is a piece of art, okay, in basically every way. It's beautiful, the soundtrack is great, the art is amazing. It is like absolutely chock full of secrets. It's one of the best 2D platformers ever made. I mean, you know what Hollow Knight is. It's incredibly hard, but it's very rewarding. Obviously, I recommend it. I don't know if I'll 100% or like 112% or whatever it is. I got 3 of the endings, and I wanted to do it so that I could play Silksong. I wanted to play Hollow Knight specifically so that I could play Silksong, and then I didn't fucking finish Silksong. It's still on my on hold in Steam. I'll get to it eventually. But for now, I really enjoyed Hollow Knight. It was something that I picked up a while ago, and then I played it on and off and tried a new game multiple times, and then for some reason this time it just clicked. I just played through the whole thing, and I really enjoyed my time with it. Number 65 is Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts. This is one of the Sniper Elite games that I think a lot of people don't really play. I feel like whenever I hear people talk about the Sniper series, they're talking exclusively about Sniper Elite. Ghost Warrior Contracts it's one that has a lot of dialogue, surprisingly. Like, I almost don't even need a preamble for like why we're gonna go into this open world level and wander around to these different mission objectives and complete the mission objectives, preferably all in one go, but it could take so long, 20 or 30 minutes just to do one of them, that maybe you'll just take a break halfway through the level and come back to it. I don't need that much preamble to want to use a sniper rifle in a sniper game. This game almost is like a second screen game material because the sniping is so fun and it's relatively simplistic. Like, they have all of your wind measurements and all that stuff plotted out on your scope while you're shooting. So it's not like it's the most difficult game in the world, but there's a lot of like micro strategy that goes into clearing out a base that feels a lot more like I'm playing the most fun part of Far Cry 3, but that's the whole game. That's what it feels like. You should just ignore the story. Like, for the love of God, ignore the story, but expect the ending to just happen and then the credits roll, which is exactly what happened. Like, I finished the game and I was like, oh, that's it? But you can definitely pick up this game if you want to have a good time with a game that's not super complex, but still is a ton of fun to play. It is pleasantly simple. Sometimes you need to pick up a game where all you have to do is point and shoot. That's it. If you like the Sniper Elite games, I'm genuinely curious. Have you played Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts? How does it measure up to the Sniper Elite games? I've heard people say very good things about like Sniper Elite 3 and 4 especially. So maybe I'll have to give those a shot at some point. I'm not in a rush at all. I really enjoyed Ghost Warrior Contracts. I'll just have to play the second one, I guess, at some point. I enjoyed it enough that I'm going to play the second one. So number 66, I actually have Metro Last Light written down, but I did play both Metro 23. So for number 66, I have Metro Last Light mixed down.
Aw, damn! This sucks!
So for number 66, I have Metro Last Light written down, but I did also play through Metro 2033. I really enjoyed 2033 a lot. It was something that I had tried once or twice, but another one of those that for some reason, I just never finished it. Every time I picked it up, I would get through it a little bit and then I would set it down and I just wouldn't come back to it. But 2033 was like a good mix of horror and world building. Even though it did get a little bit samey by the end, it wasn't long enough that it really outstayed its welcome. Last Light, this is a joint review of 2033 and Last Light. Last Light was a lot more of a mixed bag for me. I really loved how it assumed that you had a basic understanding of this world. It didn't try to explain it all again, but it did expand on the ideas and the story that was introduced in 2033. There were some parts that got really monotonous, I think. There were one or two too many hold this area and it's going to take 5 minutes for me to open this gate kind of sequences, which they had in 2033 as well, but for some reason it annoyed me a lot more in Last Light. I don't know why. I think it may have been that there were more of them, or it just felt like more blatantly like it was wasting my time. It felt like Half-Life 2 in some ways. It had a lot of like that, we're telling the story as it's happening, you're walking around and getting narrated at by other characters. But the story of Metro was like so interesting. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I ended up liking it. It actually kind of made me want to read the books. Maybe I'll do that at some point. This one felt like a more cinematic and like higher budget version of the original Metro 2033. Just as an aside, I did try playing Metro Exodus after I played Last Light, and it crashed. Every single time you jump over the first gap to follow Anya, whatever her name is, your wife, it would crash. Every single time. It happens both on the enhanced edition and on the original Metro Exodus, and I am so annoyed with it. I'll have to play it on console at some point because I assume it has to be more stable on console. But something about my system just does not like Metro. I'll have to give it a shot at some point, but if you're interested at all, pick up Metro 2033, play the enhanced edition. It really does hold up, I think. The story is really engaging. Okay, the last couple that I have here are a little bit longer. I have a lot more to say about them. Number 67 is Silent Hill F. I have played this now twice. I've played through this. I haven't finished all 4 endings, which I feel like you need to in order to understand the story, which is super unique in a game. I don't know if Silent Hill 2 requires you to play through it more than once to get the quote-unquote true ending. I know it has a number of endings, so I'm not super familiar with the endings of like Silent Hill 1 or Silent Hill 2. If Silent Hill 1 has multiple endings, I don't even know. But my first playthrough, I played with combat on story difficulty and puzzles on hard difficulty, which was the recommended, by the way, the recommended difficulty for both of those parts of the game. I had a pretty bad first impression. I felt like there were a lot of weird design decisions in the first half that didn't make sense at all for a Silent Hill game. Like when you're introduced to a perfect dodge mechanic in a Silent Hill game, you have weapon durability, which isn't uncommon in a horror game where you have weapons, but it felt weird in this. I kept coming across a lot of weapons, like combat was going to be really important. There were lots of health items and like the atmosphere was incredible. I thought it was genuinely creepy. The enemies were super creepy, like in cutscenes, but then in combat, they felt like total pushovers. Your toolkit is so insanely large that it just felt like there was no reason to really be scared of them, especially in the second half of the game. Like all of those weird decisions clicked into place for me. The body horror midpoint of this game is fucking insane. Like I was not, my jaw dropped when I saw where they were going with it. I did not think they were gonna push it as far as they did. And it is genuinely kind of gross a little bit, but it becomes clear that what you're playing is not a horror game. You're playing a sleeper character action game. This game is a character action game disguised as a horror game, at least if you play it if you have combat in story mode and you have puzzles in hard mode. After that, I started to actually get pretty into it because it was one of the most well-written games I think I've played in a really long time. I don't think I have played a game that is ballsy enough to require you to play it 4 times in order to know what's actually going on. It is so well written though. There's so many little touches that change run to run that I think recontextualize certain moments very much the same way that like a Rian Johnson movie, he can make an edit and then later on in the movie, he'll reveal that edit was actually not fully edited or whatever, and he'll use like the movie itself to trick you. This does a very similar kind of thing to subvert your expectations in a way that I didn't find like cheap. I feel like a lot of the time if someone does that, it can come across like, oh, I gotcha, but it doesn't feel cheap or like gimmicky to me in Silent Hill F. It felt like it really, if anything, it added to the story that it was trying to tell. I didn't mind that what the monsters represented in this was pretty on the nose. Like her journal entries for the monsters basically spell out what the monsters are supposed to represent, but then you get more context that makes the monster's lore or symbolism deeper, I think. It's not as black and white as it seems in your first playthrough. The designs for the monsters were overall cool and like mostly fun to fight against. My opinion of that changed a little bit in my second playthrough. I had the difficulty for combat and for puzzles in my second playthrough, both set to the hardest difficulty, which is called Into the Fog. I wanted to do it for the achievement. That ending, by the way, of the first playthrough is so good. It was so good. It immediately made me want to pick it up and start playing the second playthrough right after I finished the first one. I don't understand how there's so many people that seem to play just the first playthrough and then come away from it thinking that, it wasn't really that good. I don't really get it or whatever. I feel like you need the full context in order to really talk about the game. And that's why I'm kind of hesitant to go into detail, because I feel like I still don't quite understand what all is happening. And there's so much that has yet to be contextualized, I think, that I am just ready to play through it again and I think just see what the fuck is going on. My thoughts following the first playthrough, I'll just read you what I have written down here. This has the potential to be one of the best written Silent Hill games. Just started the second playthrough and already I'm super into all the different tidbits that can lead to theory crafting. The fact that now I get 2-shot by every enemy incentivizes me to actually avoid fights, which means I'm walking around slower, which means it's way more tense. Now, every time I'm forced to walk into a tiny doorway or into a hallway or something, I'm worried something is gonna jump out at me and steal half my health, which means I'm now expecting something around every corner. Only took 16 hours, but it's finally scary. When I finish Silent Hill F for the 4th time, I'll have to maybe do an update video or something explaining what my thoughts are on the story as a whole, because I do really, really enjoy it. I'm so looking forward to actually finishing it.
All right, let's get Bravo. Change the pace up.
Nice, very nice. I like it. The second anybody dies, there's 30 fucking medics there, all like spamming defib.
Number 68 is Battlefield 6. This finally released, so you can tell exactly where we are in the timeline now. If I had to rank this campaign compared to the other ones, I'd probably put it slightly above Battlefield 4. It didn't feel like a complete waste of time like Battlefield 4 did, but it still wasn't great. It had some actually fun set pieces. I've had so many bugs happen in this game though, especially the campaign. Oh my god, it felt like there was no love given to the campaign by the bug squashing team, really. I had an issue where I wasn't able to ADS. I had multiple instances where people's mouths weren't moving as their voice lines were coming out. I had enemies like spawning out of nowhere or bugging out. This is all in the campaign, by the way. I had hit registration issues. I had like level geometry issues. In Mission 8, I had one of the SAM sites that you're required to destroy. I destroyed it and then it spawned back in and then I couldn't destroy it again, so it soft locked the mission. I had to restart the entire thing. And that was the last SAM site, by the way, of the 3 that I needed to destroy. The campaign was just so obviously not the focus for all the teams that were involved. There's a reason that it wasn't in the marketing, like hardly at all. We didn't see very much of it, period, until basically release. And on the lead up to release, the little bit that we did see or hear from people that had played it was that it was like very lackluster. So I was not expecting that much out of it. Those are my thoughts on the campaign. I do have my thoughts on the multiplayer put separately into its own video. I'll put a card right here and I'll put a link in the description to that. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and give that a watch. But the campaign overall was just not the focus. It was so clearly not the focus. And I wish it had been. I wish that there was more to the Battlefield campaigns. I wish they cared more. I guess FPS campaigns in general. I wish more modern FPS campaigns actually cared. But it doesn't feel like a lot of the player base cares. I'm in the minority, and I recognize that. I recognize I'm in the minority. Most people tell me they don't play Battlefield for the campaign. They barely play Call of Duty for the campaign, if they do at all. So not many people care about the campaign in an FPS. I think they've just come to expect it to be bad. And I yearn for a fleshed out FPS campaign in a AAA game like this. Battlefield 6 has some of the most incredible game feel to it, and I wish that the adrenaline that you get in the multiplayer was able to be transferred into the campaign in a way that doesn't feel like it's just going through the motions.
Now we need money. Bronte said this place has got money. Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a robbery. Behave as I tell you, and none of you will die. Annoy me.
Number 69 is Red Dead Redemption 2. This is one that I picked up and put down over and over and over and over again. I played the online, Red Dead Online, quite a lot actually. And this year I decided to just go for it, play Red Dead Redemption 2 all the way through. It is really, really long. And guess what? I know I'm late to the party, but this is one of the best video game stories of all time. It's one of the most well-written stories in any video game. The characters are all so fleshed out and interesting. I mean, I don't need to tell you this. Everyone and their mother who's played Red Dead 2 gushes about how good it is. Everyone knows Red Dead 2 is one of the best games ever. I just did not have the patience to get through it the first time I played it. I had to be in a very particular kind of mindset, I think, to get sucked into it. But once I was fully invested. It was not just a dipping the toe in the water. I was like fully invested in every one of these characters. I love just walking around camp and listening to them talk to each other or sing something and getting to have these little asides with every character just passively without engaging in a full conversation, I think was genius, really. Having so many little bits where you can just comment on maybe a recent mission that went well or went poorly. It felt realistic. It felt real. It felt like what it would have been like at the time. And you really can't oversell that. It is like the main draw of the game is the attention to detail and the devotion, like the slavish devotion to realism. There's so much to talk about with this game, and the writing is so deep that I'm sure there are forum posts arguing about whether High Honor Arthur saying "good boy" is a meaningful peek into the man's psyche because the low honor Arthur says "all right boy" instead. Like, the point is that this is like being able to play the best TV show ever, and like any successful TV show, it only works when you follow the script. Nakey Chicky has a really good video about this. Obviously, if you are watching this video, you've almost definitely seen that video. His RDR2 videos are unmatched in general, but in them he mentions like how the game is super strict in its story missions compared to earlier Rockstar games, and I can't agree more. I honestly didn't mind it, and it sort of helped me get into character a little bit here and there because it felt like I could more lean into the role play aspect of it. If that's not the type of thing that you do when you play games, this may get very, very annoying for you. But I definitely agree that they took it way too far to the point where it becomes honestly just kind of annoying. I for sure had one or two instances every once in a while of the game going, "No, you're not doing it right. You have to do it like this." But for the most part, it wasn't too intrusive. I decided to keep the compass up this time. The first time I played this, I turned off the HUD, and it was a huge mistake because there are moments where you're expected to do something very specific in a location or walk to a location, stand in a particular spot, and there's not enough information for you to deduce what spot you're supposed to stand in or drive to or whatever without having a little glowing item at the bottom left of your screen telling you exactly where to go. But there are other moments where it's fine. Like there's road signs. When I was playing Red Dead Online, more often than not, I would play with the HUD off in the bottom left because I enjoyed just finding my way from town to town and using like the road signs and like a physical map. I wouldn't use a physical one, but I would pull up a site and I would use that plus my like current location to just kind of figure out where I was in a very like orienteering kind of way. But the game is just not made for that. The campaign, at least, is just not built for that kind of freedom. It's very much a TV show. It is very much a script that you are following, but that ending, this game gave me that like pit in my stomach feeling more than once. It got to the point where instead of rushing the story and ignoring the side missions, I was doing like exclusively side missions to put off the events of the main story because I had a feeling I knew where it was going. I really did feel like a member of Dutch's gang, where it felt like at any moment I could do a main mission, and on my way back from the main mission, the entire status quo of what we had come to expect at that point was going to get flipped on its head. And that happens more than once, so I really did have like a dread for doing the main missions. I was like wandering around, talking to strangers. I was like, please don't make me do this. Please don't make me do this. I don't want to help them. I don't want to do this. I've heard people say too that on a replay, what they'll do is only play the story up to a certain point so that none of the bad stuff happens or has the chance to happen, and he just gets to live his life in a very peaceful kind of way. You get to the point where you're satisfied with the story and you don't want it to progress to the point where it does. But it is so good. If you haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2 yet, it really isn't for everybody. It is very, very slow paced. There are tons of moments that I think are very immersive, but I could see somebody else being completely bored with. So this is one that I think is going to be hit or miss, but if you have the chance to play it, I do recommend it, at least the first like chapter, because I think it really is worth it. When you get to that ending, I think it really does make the whole journey worth it. Number 70 is Powerwash Simulator 2. This one is better than the first one, but not by a whole lot. Not a whole lot has changed, but for the losers who actually care about Powerwash Simulator lore, which apparently there are a lot of them, there's more than enough here. I see people messaging all the time in like the Steam forums talking about like the lore and different characters and like coming up with like fan theories and stuff. It's really strange for like a Powerwash game. The community is really like toxic on the Steam forums. This might be a more of a modern like gamer issue than just Powerwash Simulator fans, but there's a very weird tone that is carried by people on the Steam forums, at least for Powerwash Simulator 2. Even though I never understood the soap meter thing at the top right, sometimes it feels like it never ran out, and then other times I feel like I ran out like immediately. Soap that I didn't have to buy was such a good addition, and it helped alleviate some of that annoyance of some of the jobs from the first game where like at a certain point I didn't have any soap in the first game. I had no option to buy soap at all, so I was just permanently stuck using the power washer for any later jobs. So in this game, having that option of just permanently having soap and not having to purchase like refills of soap for specific materials, I think was a very good change. And the surface cleaner was really nice too. It was a nice addition, even though I didn't use it very often. I'm a big fan of how many jobs were in the campaign this time. I can't wait to not buy any of the DLC, the many planned DLC packs I'm sure they have. They've already announced the first one, and it's going to be Adventure Time, which, like, of course it is. It seems like it'd be cool, but I feel like I got more than my money's worth from the base game. There's not really a reason that I have to purchase the DLC, unlike I did for Powerwash 1, where it felt like the main campaign was actually relatively short, and then they relied on the DLC to really fill in the gaps. This kind of has the opposite problem, where I feel like I don't even need DLC. The main game, I finished it, and now I just am done. Number 71 is Ball X Pit or Ball Pit. I'm not sure which way it's supposed to be pronounced. It's like a Spy Family type of thing. Spy Family or Spy X Family. The soundtrack for this game is one of the catchiest ones in recent memory. Surprisingly, the relatively simple tracks don't get old. They evolve over the course of every level's run. This really gives me that like Binding of Isaac kind of roguelike feeling. Even though there's not as much variety in Ball Pit as something like Binding of Isaac, it didn't really get boring to me either, in the way that I was worried it might when I saw how limited the evolutions and the combinations of the balls actually were. But I think there's more to it because of the huge variety of combinations that you can make. Being able to evolve a ball and then combine two fully leveled up evolved balls into a major, like, crazy ball is really cool. And there was a lot there that I didn't even know existed until I had to look up a guide to get the last couple evolutions done, because there's just so many different ways of accomplishing the same thing, and there are so many that are really hard to get in a run because they require so much very specific planning and luck. So they are doing a whole bunch of updates to this game. I am so excited for whatever expansions they're coming out with, all these, the new balls, the new evolutions, the new characters. I think classifying this game as like a Vampire Survivors-like does it a bit of a disservice. It's much more active, and it has a lot of layers of like strategy and skill that you can actually improve at. Like, it's a game you can actually get better at. There's a lot of RNG involved still, but you can absolutely try for like certain builds or certain synergies while you're playing. The lack of variety can honestly be seen as a positive in some ways, since you can become like infinitely more familiar with your toolkit here, as opposed to something like Binding of Isaac, where you have like a couple hundred different options for items in a pool at any given time, and so many different factors that go into the way that your like tiers interact with each other, or the world, or the way that your character interacts with the world. So in that way, I think it actually can be seen as a little bit of a benefit that it doesn't have an insane amount of variety. The game does have multiple like soft ceilings, I guess is what I would call them, where once you pass a certain threshold, in this game, it's like constructing a building will do this. Like the mechanics of the game completely change. The game seems so simple when you first pick it up, and eventually it's like you have two characters, you're using both of their unique mechanics together, you have the ability to like hold more balls at once, but all that to say that it just becomes way more complicated as you play the game. It feels like it does expand in a way that feels like there's always something new that it's being added, or you're getting like a fresh way to play the game. This is not a game that you play for the story, but the vibes are off the charts, and it's weirdly addictive. Like I said, you would think it would get boring, but surprisingly I kept coming back to it, and I want to keep playing it even after this. The only two characters I actively disliked are the Tactician, which is a character that makes you do turn-based combat, and the Radical, which is a character that plays the entire level on his own. He makes his own decisions and moves around, but he's not very good. I think I won with him more than I lost, but he felt like he was constantly standing in front of bullets and in front of enemies and just taking damage for no reason. This game was absolutely one of my favorites from this year. Highly recommend Ball Pit if you haven't played it already. It's a ton of fun. I don't think it's for everybody, but if you like Binding of Isaac type games or Vampire Survivors type games, but you want something a little bit more active than something like Vampire Survivors, definitely pick up Ball Pit, give it a shot. All you need to do is play through the first level and you'll be hooked. Finally, the last game that I played in 2025 was number 72, Shell Diver. This one feels like a classic Flash game. I know I've said that a couple times today, but this one feels like something from like Nitrome or Miniclip back in the day. It's relatively simple, but it has a really engaging gameplay loop that relies mainly on a skill tree to progress, which is something that I'm a huge fan of. I love skill tree based games. A lot of those have a fatal flaw for me that I think Shell Diver addresses. This game has huge upgrades that you can get late game that feel like a real step up compared to a lot of incremental games that may have like hundreds of small percentage upgrades in a skill tree. I'm looking at you, Siffy. This is basically a truncated version of something like Siffy, where you have a bunch of tiny upgrades that eventually you'll hit a milestone that'll push you into a next section that'll unlock some new mechanic or something like that. Shell Diver is like a truncated version of that experience. You will hit a certain point where all of a sudden now the game is like significantly easier. Some of these things that maybe you're like, oh, that's kind of annoying that I have to do this every time. Oh, there's an upgrade to fix that. It's kind of annoying that I have to do this every time. Oh, there's an upgrade to fix that. Shell Diver is great. It's honestly a like diamond in the rough type of incremental game. Shell Diver is the kind of incremental game that I would recommend to somebody who hasn't played very many incremental games or doesn't like incremental games. They don't think they like incremental games. It is engaging enough that I think that even somebody not familiar with the genre would get a really good time out of it. But that's all the games that I rolled credits on in 2025. If you have anything that you would like to tell me, if you want to cuss me out for not liking Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4's campaign, which are terrible, and you know what? I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not. You don't like it? Let me know down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.